Tonight, there are growing calls to defund the police. You can see it right here. Defund the police, painted in large yellow letters on the new Black Lives Matter plaza in D.C. But I want to be really precise about what that means. Defund the police does not mean that police officers will lose their jobs or their pensions, nor does it mean we're going to have no law enforcement in America. Do not worry, we're not talking Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome. What it does mean is that we have to reinvent, reorganize, and reimagine how policing is done. Part of it would reallocate money to social programs. In Minneapolis, the city council voting to dismantle its current police force structure, vowing a new system of public safety. The mayor there saying today that he does not support abolishing the department. And I want to share what he said over the weekend. In New York City, the NYPD under fire for excessive force during the protests, as you can see on the screen. Officers beating protesters with batons. Think about this. The NYPD gets more than 6% of New York City's total annual budget. Mayor de Blasio vowing for the very first time to now cut funding for the NYPD, saying, quote, "We are committed to seeing a shift of funding to youth services, to social services." But it is still unclear what exactly defunding the police would mean, what it would look like. Joe Biden's campaign saying he does not believe police should be defunded. Joining me now to discuss, New York Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousin. She is the first ever woman and African-American woman leader of the state Senate, and Captain Ron Johnson, former Missouri Highway Patrol, who led protest security during the 2014 protests in Ferguson. Captain Johnson, when you hear this phrase, defund the police, what do you think?
I think it means that our country is saying we just need to look at those budgets and make sure the money has been allocated properly. You know, over the years, police have been giving a lot of jobs, a lot of tasks that probably should be in other places. And so I think it's just looking at it. It's not saying we're going to do away with policing. It's saying we're going to look at the budgets and make sure that money is being allocated properly. And I don't think that any agency should be upset if our community and taxpayers, so we just want to look and make sure the money is being allocated properly.
Senator, school budgets see that every single year. Yet the tagline, defund police, has our own president and other Republicans saying, well, this is going to take us to lawless nations. Suddenly we're abolishing the police force. That's not what defund the police means.
Well, Stephanie, you're absolutely right. That's not what any of this means. What it means that we're in a moment and we've got to take advantage of the moment. It's not always that we have an opportunity to assess how we're doing what we're doing. And there's not always a time where community is so engaged. So I think every single one of us in elected office are looking at how we can make things happen. Here in New York, we're here for 3 days. We've just banned chokeholds. We've just made 911 false reporting something that cannot be done anymore without penalty. Tomorrow, we will be putting more transparency in terms of police files and records. I mean, there are so many things to do. And frankly, how we manage to make sure that everyone is benefiting from all of the resources we in government have is really the focus.
Senator, why now? Why did all the things that you just mentioned in terms of the sweeping changes in New York absolutely seem like common sense that we should have seen years ago?
You know how these things are. We're all so deeply involved in how we see things and what usually happens. And it is very, very rarely that we reach a point where everyone is watching the same thing. And for the most part, actually experiencing it in the same way. We know racial injustice. I was listening to Jonathan earlier. We know the story of racial injustice. We know it is the original sin of America. We know that so many of our systems really can do better for all people. But there are very rare times where everyone has decided this is the moment. So that's why now, if I, as a Black woman, a mother of 3 children, 2 of them Black male sons, men, and 4 grandsons, in this position of power, if I do not take advantage of moving things that I know will help people and ensure a better future for my kids and their kids, what would be the point? So that's why now. And I think the speaker feels the same exact way as a black male. So it is a rare opportunity. And it's a rare opportunity when not only the whole world, but certainly the nation that we all care so deeply about really are on one accord in getting this right.
Captain, defunding or restructuring police departments work. Look at Camden, New Jersey. The pivot to community policing saw a steep decline in crime there. The department adopted an 18-page use of force policy, and we know that reports of excessive force complaints have dropped. Are you ready for this? 95%. Given all of that, how does the president and his supporters and actually leaders in law enforcement stand by this idea that the president is for law and order, but the idea of reform is against that? That doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Well, I think reform is something our country is asking for. I think this is an opportunity for our law enforcement to take a step toward uniting better with and gaining that trust of our country. I think to show that, you know what, we're willing to say, look at our budgets. And if there's things there that can be reallocated to make our country stronger, make communities stronger, I think that this is an opportunity. I think those agencies that will take this opportunity, embrace it, they will see a better connection with their community. You know, when we start talking about community policing, this is a step toward that, having joint efforts. And so to defund police, it's not saying that police services are going to go away. And I've heard a lot of people that are protesters that say, we don't want police to go away. We just want to make sure that we're using our resources, whether it's in policing or other government funded agencies. Let's make sure we're using them properly and using them to make us all better. And I agree with the senator.
Captain, that makes a whole lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. But do you actually believe that the police union that has an enormous amount of influence is going to see it that way?
Well, I tell you what should drive the way that law enforcement operates in this country are the expectations of the people that live in this country. And we have to continue to stand and be united and stand strong. We elect leaders. Our leaders have to be strong, and that's why it's so important to vote. But I think when we have leaders like the senator that's willing to stand up with courage to say, we're going to do the right thing. And I think a lot of people are saying that, and I think we'll be okay. We just have to continue in this moment and stand strong.
All right. Stay strong in this moment. Senator, Captain, thank you both so much. New York State Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins and Captain Ron Johnson. I appreciate both your time.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.